Hello and welcome to 21st Century. I'm Daljit Dhaliwal. Guatemala is one of the world's most violent countries. Murder, extortion, trafficking and gang warfare are rife. But very few violent criminals are ever prosecuted. One woman, however, is risking her life to change that. And here's her story.
Beneath a volcano, the crowded streets of Guatemala's capital. And everywhere, signs that violence is never far from people's minds. Armed security guards outside clothes shops, in front of candy stores, and on buses, keeping vigil. Night and day, police recovered dead bodies from the streets. In 2009, the country recorded its highest ever number of violent deaths. The perpetrators almost always escape justice. This suspect has been caught, but he's an exception. Only 2% of homicides in Guatemala lead to a conviction. Human rights activist Norma Cruz has made it her personal mission to take on this culture of impunity. Today she's investigating a new murder scene, helping find evidence she fears the police may have missed.
In Guatemala, the evidence of the crime scene isn't preserved. Most of the time, they take the body away.
On a forest path, leaves soaked with blood. The bodies of 3 sisters, aged between 7 and 12, were found here. Their throats had been slit, and there's evidence that the oldest child had been raped.
Our country is really sick. I'm tired of living in a society where anyone can gain power by doing harm.
Cruz resolves to support the girl's family by launching a private prosecution, which is permitted under Guatemala's legal system.
Unfortunately, the prosecutor in this area has a lot of cases that have not led to a conviction. So we are going to make a big effort to make sure the people responsible don't get away with this.
Cruz goes to the girl's village to attend the funeral and tries to comfort their mother. Cruz's organization, called the Survivor Foundation, presses for DNA samples to be taken from the bodies. They uncover the story behind the murders. 3 local men kidnapped the girls, planning to ask their father for a ransom of $1,500 US. They then discovered the father didn't have the money. They killed the girls with a machete. All 3 men now face trial for murder and rape. Most of the Survivor Foundation's investigations involve assaults on women, domestic violence, sexual abuse and homicide, which are all commonplace in Guatemala. Today, the foundation is a last resort for hundreds of frightened and battered women. It's a long way from its modest beginnings in Norma Cruz's home in Guatemala City.
This is the house where the foundation began. In this space was the office.
There was opposition from the beginning. This bullet hole dates from an attack in 2006. And to this day, threats from organized crime groups mean that Cruz cannot go anywhere without a bodyguard.
There was an assassination attempt on my family that only failed because our driver was skilled and managed to evade the hitmen. Sometimes people say that I'm reckless, that I take too many risks. But living is not just about breathing. Living is being able to develop yourself fully as a human being. If you limit yourself, if you restrict yourself, it's as if you are committing suicide.
Cruz's activism is deeply personal. It was triggered by a disturbing revelation within her own family.
We started confronting the reality of violence against women in 1999 with my daughter's case. At that time, she was 14 years old, and it turned out she was a victim of sexual violence.
Against the odds, Cruz pressed ahead with a prosecution, and he was given a 10-year sentence. The case not only broke the silence surrounding sexual abuse, it made Cruz a national figure. An especially high-profile case taken on by Cruz and the Foundation involved the murder of yet another young girl.
My daughter was found dead in the forest. She was found naked.
Alba Michelle España was only 8 years old. She was the lead singer of the church choir and had won the Miss Chiquitita beauty pageant in Camotan, her hometown in Guatemala's eastern lowlands.
I was destroyed. I mean, what do I do now? Who can help me? That was when I got the help of the foundation, and thank God, or actually, thank those women. It is because of them that justice is being done.
The Survivor Foundation offered support from a psychologist, while the Foundation's criminal lawyer, Ruthman Perez, launched an investigation. He established that a child trafficking ring was involved.
These are guys who are constantly intimidating people in the area and spreading fear.
The story behind the murder began to emerge. Women from Alba Michelle's village took her captive. They planned to hand her over to the trafficking ring in exchange for money, but their exit routes were blocked by villagers who suspected she'd been kidnapped. Since Alba Michelle knew her abductors and there was no way out, the women decided to kill her and dump her body in the forest. The child trafficking ring did everything it could to stop the investigation.
It's obvious that the witnesses are terrified for their safety, and not just their personal safety, their family's safety, because they could be put at risk at any moment.
The threats weren't idle. A state attorney involved in the case was killed. Despite this, Ruthman Perez, assisted by testimony from Alba Michelle's mother, successfully brought murder convictions against 2 women who were both given 50-year sentences. A further investigation into the child trafficking ring is still continuing. But beyond the victory in this case lies a far larger struggle against the corruption and criminality that poison every level of Guatemala society.
Underground criminal networks have been established in the institutions, the ports, the airports, the public prosecutor's office, the police, the courts.
Carlos Castracena heads the Commission Against Impunity, which was set up by the United Nations and the Guatemalan government.
Guatemala ended a 36-year-long civil war in 1996 and has tried to build a peaceful democracy, but it has inherited very weak institutions. Nobody expects anything of them and nobody trusts them.
Today, the Commission is taking on the daunting challenge of disbanding the country's entrenched array of criminals, including powerful drug traffickers. The Commission is also pressing for a radical overhaul of the country's legal system.
We have asked for almost everything to be changed, and for a new law that would reform the Supreme Court and the Appeals Court. We want to make sure that the courts employ the best and the most honest judges, judges who serve Guatemala, not pressure groups, or just one of the sides in a legal case.
Castracena sees a long, hard road ahead. But without these changes, he says, Guatemalans are not living in a true democracy. He also believes that activists like Norma Cruz can make a crucial contribution. Cruz herself recently gained recognition overseas when she received the International Women of Courage Award from the United States Secretary of State Hillary Clinton and US First Lady Michelle Obama. Even though she lives under constant threat, Cruz chooses to continue her search for justice. She believes it's a necessity, both for her and for the country as a whole.
Justice is quite simply healing. It's part of the process of therapy and recovery. Everyone is always astonished that I am an optimist. I really bet on us being able to change this. And I say it's not step by step. It's case by case that we're going to change this reality.